Hello, everyone. Thank you for following me here to a Monday. This last weekend and the next weekend, I'm teaching my biotuning practitioners workshop, so it tends to be busy weekends for me. But here we are on a nice Monday, a quiet Monday, as we'll see. Here's the address for where you'll be able to get the soundtrack for today. Scientific Sounds / Path of Wellness. Here's the address where you can go and ask questions or make comments about anything to do with any of these live streams. And this address is where you can go to see the list of all the live streams. This is my YouTube channel. For those of you who are new, we use headphones at the end when we listen to the soundtrack. That's because we're doing brain entrainment, synchronizing of the hemispheres, and a mind link of all the people listening at the same time to the same soundtrack simultaneously to the same brain entrainment frequency. Well, and training everyone to the same place. We're attempting to do a network, a consciousness alignment network, in order to, through the power of numbers, we can open higher quantum dimensions of information and influence to change the world, right? Today we're talking about the path of wellness, and in the last few times we've been honing in on this concept of what's health and what is dis-ease, picking that word apart. Many words in English can kind of be picked apart that way. The word understanding, standing other, standing under. It's a if you want to understand something, you have to surrender. You have to convert yourself to not overloading, but not being over, not being a lord, but being a supplicant, a student. When we and I've covered various harken back to the most ancient literatures on the planet with the wisest people that we've recorded in history. It's a shame that we've lost the wisdom of the great elders before the written word. The great ones, the holy ones of the villages and the tribes, the ones who held the secrets, the ones who communed with the universe and brought those truths back, word of mouth. When humanity was small and humble, just a part of the whole matrix of life throughout the universe and on our planet, sharing our space with all the other living beings that are our living brothers and sisters. Those we have sort of turned away from in our hubris and our arrogance, that somehow they belong to us, that the world belongs to us to do with as we choose, and our personal boundary of our species owns the universe. And all the other creatures, our brothers and sisters, have been left by the wayside, and we've destroyed their habitats and destroyed their lives and forced them into extinction as we pursue profit. When you realize that a forest with trees and ecosystems and living beings and animals and birds and insects and the whole unbelievable network of life that happens in a vast forest, that this has no value until the trees are cut down in the sort of present culture we have, the present culture of profit first. A tree has no value until it's cut down and converted into something that can be sold. There's no inherent value recognized in general of the value of life, of nature, of the connection of us between things. Therefore is the root of our collective sickness, which has brought us to the state of the world that we currently have, where nature itself is revolting against us, and we're now immersed in a global pandemic with millions of people dying, where we all have to be closed away in our little cubbyholes, in nature's way of giving us a time out. And hopefully we take that time out and we contemplate our navels, so to speak, contemplate our origins, where we come from, the root of all things, the umbilical cord to Gaia, to Earth itself, to our origins in the cosmos. How's that a way to start out today? When I talked about the 1,000-mile journey begins with the first step, my take on stepping on pathways and pathways leading to forks. I think this is an appropriate sort of picture here, because I love that sign there. There's a fork in the road and the sign is blank, and you're the one who has to put the label on that sign to choose which of these forks you're going to take. But this is the eternal situation. All roads lead to a fork, and all forks lead to new roads that lead to new forks, and we're fated to run this path forever and always come up with a free will decision to make a choice of which fork do we take. And I remember this from Frodo. I found this really summed it up for me. It's dangerous business, Frodo, going out of your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there is no knowing where you might be swept off to. I mean, for me, I started out as an artist in the 60s. I went to art school. I've got a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. Painting, etching, sculpture, film. That's what I was doing. That's what I thought I would do with my life. But once you put your foot on that road and you start to make choices, and whenever you make the choices that are based on the pull of your heart and your soul towards this path instead of that one, whenever you follow that, then you never know what's going to happen. It always unfolds in a way that you could never have supposed. It would be a script that would be rejected by Hollywood as being too fantastical. And yet here I am. Here I am with you every week. And as a musician and a composer and an artist, I went to art school and I graduated, and I formed a business. At one point, I got a job in a museum village because of my work with sculpture, which was cast molten metal into molds. I became an expert mold maker. I became an expert in alloys, metalwork, metal smithing, melting metals, combining metals together and forming my own new metals, my own. That was my reliving of my alchemy lifetimes, so to speak. I dealt a lot with pewter. I made pewter plates and spoons and tableware and candlesticks and things like that. And I formed a business where I sold those. Became a craftsman. Had a craftsman empire, so to speak. I had a business that was doing well. I had my shop was a sort of an alchemy lab of molten metal pots and ingots and mold making and fashioning different things like medallions and belt buckles and spoons. And at a certain point, my best friend, his brother went to chiropractic school in Iowa and started working on him, and he started working on me. You know, Jeff, come out here to Iowa and see what these guys are up to. Everything you've ever thought about or learned about or been interested in as far as esoteric science, as the secrets from the East and the Far East and the ancient texts, the ancient proportions, the mathematics, the numerology, all of that stuff is in miniature here in your body. It's all reflected in microcosm. All of the proportions, golden section ratios, the law of music and harmonics and overtones, it's all here in the body. It's all in my skeletal structure. It's in my biochemistry. It's in my brain. Come out here and learn a medical level of anatomy and physiology, and you'll see that it goes as deep as you want to explore. So I finally went out there for a week and spent a week and toured around the college and sat in some classes and just completely had my mind completely blown. And I came back to my house in upstate New York, and the house was a 2-story barn that I had renovated myself. It was really beautiful, rustic, with exposed beams and filled with incredible stuff that I had traded with other craftsmen, blown glass and hand-woven carpets and furniture and leather work and pottery, all of my artwork, on my musical instruments. I was a filmmaker. I had, major big-time cameras and editing equipment and 24 films. I had a book collection, covered a whole giant wall. I collected old books. My oldest book was from 1675, The Saint's Daily Exercise, where it was one of the early hand-printed books that had the F's and the S's the same, and the U's and the V's. There's no U's in those days. There was just a V, and there was no S's. There was F. A little difficult to read, but fascinating. The Saint's Daily Exercise with a hand-bound leather cover. And I come back and I look at all this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell am I ever going to get all this stuff to Iowa? And first and last month rent and school expenses. And I mean, I must have thought I was crazy to think I could just pick up and move to Iowa and go to school. I mean, there's so much more involved, and my circle of elders up there are freaking out and thinking, "Oh no, he's making the safe decision. He's talking himself out of what, the doors were opening." So the solution, because I'm a bit dense, is to burn my house down. So the house caught on fire in the middle of wintertime. The water pipes were all frozen. Nothing anybody could do. Burn that whole place down. Burn my films, burn my cameras, burn my musical instruments, burned all the artwork I'd ever done, burned all the things that I had. And at the end, I had, even lost one of my shoes, and didn't even have a toothbrush. But the insurance money was just enough to comfortably travel to Iowa, and I could travel light. And now all of a sudden I had enough money for first and last month rent, and I had enough money to buy some tools and put myself in business doing carpentry and home renovations, to put myself through school. And then I was faced with memorizing the brain and the nervous system and the muscles and the joints and the cells and embryology and osteology and myology, and it was so much that the medical level, you had to essentially memorize Gray's Anatomy and Guyton's physiology, and more. And I realized that in order to get through this, I had to use my strengths. So my strengths were, I'm an artist. So if I illustrated all of these anatomy diagrams, by the time I finished illustrating it, the hand-eye coordination burned it in my brain, and I was making A's in the most difficult classes, neuroanatomy classes and physiology classes. And fellow students were seeing these drawings and saying, whoa, those are great drawings for studying. Can I have a copy of that? And pretty soon I was binding them and selling them, and put myself through school as a medical illustrator. Then I got hired by this school to illustrate the manuals for some of the classes. So once again, you never know where this road is going to take you once you put your foot on it. And you start taking some steps, and you follow the indications of where the doors are opening by the universe that indicate which direction you're supposed to go, and your heart follows you there. And when I graduated from school, I moved to Virginia because that's where my parents had retired. And I was pretty broke. They helped me get out of town. I stayed with them for a few months and worked as a carpenter until I could take the state board exams. And I took the state board exams, and I passed them, and now I'm looking for a job. And I took all the exotic courses in all of the holistic, far-out stuff. I got certified in craniopathy and advanced techniques of applied kinesiology and energy work and all of that. And that's what I was looking for a job, but there's not many chiropractic offices who are doing that kind of stuff. Most of them were sort of meat and potato practices of people coming in for a 5-minute visit, and you're adjusting this and adjusting that as fast as possible, and the next person comes in and you see 100 patients a day. It's a conveyor belt practice. That was depressing. But I landed a job in the largest holistic health center in Virginia, Northern Virginia. This place was a mind blower. It was like something out of a dream. It was the largest holistic health center in the whole state. The guy who ran it was the most amazing healer I ever met. When he would do a new patient exam, everybody in the office would cram in there. I mean, we had a full front desk staff. I had a nurse, he had a nurse, and the other new kind of greenhorn like me that got hired had a nurse. We'd all cram in there and watch his exam. His exams just would blow your mind. There was a level of using the information of anatomy and physiology, a level of connection with that, and using it practically in a way that I'd never dreamed of. An out-of-the-box way of approaching things that I had never seen before or never thought of before. So that's one of the big things I learned from him, was how to assemble the information I had learned and look at it in a unique way, an out-of-the-box way that was not by rote, but was just another tool in a toolbox of things to be combined differently. He also was a national certification trainer for biomagnetic therapy, so I learned that firsthand, how to use magnetic fields to stimulate and sedate organs and meridians and heal with magnets. We had huge expensive devices for generating magnetic fields. We had a blood lab in the back for analyzing blood for nutrition studies. And at a certain point, I thought to myself, I'm making enough money now that I can take out a bank loan and I can do something I've always wanted to do, and that's make an album as a composer and as a musician. So, I've told this story before. For those of you who have been here with me all this time, and I went and I bought all this fancy schmancy cutting edge equipment and outfitted a recording studio with electronic keyboard and stuff in my spare room. My wife at the time wanted me to work on her back, so I popped up my portable table in my spare room like I always do and stuck her on that table, and realized all of a sudden I have a patient on a treatment table in a recording studio. And it's like, oh, I wonder if I could make a chiropractic adjustment with the sound wave. And when that worked, it was like one of the major life-changing moments for me. An innocuous little question in my brain turned into opening a door for the rest of my life that would change everything. I brought that back to the clinic. I started using sound for chiropractic work, for cranial work, for influencing cerebral spinal fluid, for resonating frequencies into organs for healing. And I could confirm that with blood tests. When I started thinking about influencing the brain itself with sound frequencies, because it controls all the other systems. So instead of separate frequencies for different systems, go for the control system itself and let it handle these systems, so I don't have to. I only just go to the source and fix that. And that became the first raw beginnings of what is now biotuning, which is what I spent this weekend training practitioners to do, which is now semi-automated in a computer program linked in with an advanced system of heart rate variability monitoring that can show me the autonomic nervous system on a computer screen live. How things have changed, how things evolve. It's just it's a mind blower. It's and then the owner of that clinic ends up getting into an investment thing that blew up in his face, and he was forced into bankruptcy. And me and the other greenhorn there, who had been there now for almost a year, approached the bankruptcy court and bought the whole clinic for a song and a dance. The bankruptcy court didn't want any part of this because it was all specialized equipment, and all of a sudden I end up with the largest holistic health center in the whole state of Virginia in my lap in my first year of practice. That's how it goes. That's what this means. That's what happens when you start to say yes to your heart, and you follow that either out of courage or foolishness. And every time you don't follow that, the doors slam in your face and things just don't work, and it all becomes a big frustration. And the harder you try, the worse it gets. And whenever that happens, now for me, I realize when I feel that energy happening, I realize, oh God, I've made the wrong decision. Back up. What was the fork again? What was the other decision? And go running back and make that other one. And then everything opens. And as the I Ching says, everything serves to further. The universe opens and the things become smooth and they start to flow and the doors open by themselves and the light turns green and you bump into somebody and it turns out to be just the person you need to know. It's the wrong phone call or it's the right person. It's on and on. And at a certain point you start to realize that any idea that comes into your mind that pulls your heart to go that way, and this part goes, how am I going to make that work? You always have all the tools you need strewn at your feet to get any job done that your heart opens that wants. When your heart pulls you in a direction, you already have everything you need to make that happen. The tools are at your feet. You already know everyone you need to know. And if they're not the one, they know somebody who does. It's 1 degree of separation now, by the way. You have it all. You know everyone you need to know. You've got all the tools already. All you have to do is say yes to it, and the universe will show them to you. They will arrive. It will come up. We're not looking at our feet, so we're stumbling over the tools, looking for the tools we need. So, at one point, the sound work is so powerful that I realized that I have stumbled on to something I should be doing with my life. I should do this full time. I shouldn't waste my time any longer on any of the other stuff I've been doing, or having this big clinic, which is now about to graduate into me having to open satellite clinics and hire people and be an administrator. Not what I got into it for. On the other hand, here's this choice of following this out, this sound thing. And I have an ability, if I wanted to, if I had the courage to cash in my chips and do that. Sell my practice, sell my house. Move to a place where you wouldn't be impeded in this work. California, that's why I moved to California. San Diego, that's where I am. And so I cashed it all in, had a big bundle of money, came to California, opened up a big giant center, made a lot of news, got a lot of coverage, because what I was doing was cool and interesting. And it just exploded for me. And it's been that way ever since. It's been the grand, amazing story. It's been an astounding trip. And so when I say that the frustrations in life that cause my deep core stresses, that unbalance my autonomic nervous system and put me in a fight or flight mode all the time, is the origin of health and disease. All of it spins from there. Every time I make the left decision instead of the right decision, I'm in pain. I'm at the root of where disease comes from. I make the safe choice over and over and over again, and not the choice of my heart. That is the path of pain and sickness. And this is the path of your story that opens by itself as you dance sort of with the universe. The first step starts the 1,000-mile journey of your life. And in reality, when we look at what the masters have said, that the step itself is the journey, that my foot raises off the ground and is traveling towards hitting the ground. That's the journey from one footstep to the next. And when that foot lands on the ground, that journey has now ended. I'm here. My destination is here. And now, that's my destination. If that's my destination, I'm never late and I'm never concerned. When I get stuck in, a traffic jam, you always get stuck in a traffic jam when you're on a time schedule and you're afraid you're not going to get to the airport in time or whatever. And when the traffic jam shows up and you're stopped in a parking lot on the highway, I consciously release that. I release the tension of that and realize, my little thing is, the universe is throwing a block in my way to slow me down so that I won't have an accident 5 miles up the road. If you can just slow me down a little bit, I won't be at that place where I have the accident and I'll miss it. So thank you very much for throwing this roadblock in my way so that you saved my life. Thanks for that. Meantime, if my destination is here, I'm unconcerned. that statement, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's Lao Tzu, one of the all-time, big-time conscious, enlightened ones. And, he was from all the way back to 6th century before Christ, 6th century BC, Lao Tzu. The first step starts the 1,000-mile journey. And each step that you take is the entire journey completed, But all of us are following our footsteps. And if those footsteps are following what's pulling us from our deepest heart knowing, then the path always leads to the place it's supposed to go. And we may not even know what that is, but we do know that step by step by step is an adventure where you meet the most fabulous people of your life and the most amazing experiences that you could never sort of supposed that would ever happen to you. And so here I am. I still have my art school diploma on my wall. I've got my chiropractic license and diploma on the other wall, and I'm licensed in a number of different states, and so I kind of consider that I have a diploma for my right brain, art, and my left brain, science. Kind of these two hats on all the time that are arguing with each other. I've got this scientific skeptic on the one shoulder who puffs on a cigar. When is always skeptical about things, starts puffing. And then I've got the raging mystic on this side who's taken acid and seen God and meditated and explored all the secrets from the East and the ancient past and tried to meld them with quantum physics and astrophysics and biology and anatomy and physiology and reconcile these two worlds. It's a wonderful thing. It's Newtonian physics, I've described before, Newtonian physics that seems to make this an objective, solid thing, and quantum physics, which knows that nothing in here is solid at all. It's all vibrational frequencies separated by huge amounts of space. 99% of us is space. And it's not space. It's a substance. It's consciousness itself that's resonating, forming standing waves at the core of the quantum field. It's an illusion. It's a pixel. The pixels of this movie are quantum pixels. They're so small. It's the Planck length. It's so small. The smaller you could go, the more the universe would dish up smaller things for you to discover. And from that standpoint, where the act of observing changes the observed, and that my expectation forms the next moment from now, it's entirely possible that because we're looking, because we believe, because we expect that the universe is made of ever smaller particles, then we are creating a universe made of ever smaller particles. That's what the next moment produces for us, because that's what we're expecting. We're expecting a universe made of that. It may very well be in the past, in the ancient past, before history, before written word, our ancient ancestors, who had no idea what suns or moons or stars or clouds or anything else was, that they were magical. Life itself was a magical thing, to be alive. That if you expected the world was made of magic, then it could be that the world was actually made of magic then, and it wasn't made of smaller particles like we've got now. This is a result of what we as a collective expect to be. It may not be this way at all. It could be nothing more complex than an idea in the mind of the Godhead, which is us. But Lao Tzu, I mean, think about this all the way back, 6th century BC, this guy. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. It's the 1,000-mile journey in every step. It's me being present here with myself, alive, with my breath. It's chop wood, carry water. It's assigning the true level of importance to what is, not what I'm worried about is going to happen in a few minutes or in a few days or any of that. It's honing to who I am, what I am right now. And to get a good, clear experience of being me in my life right now. You know, I remember on the highway passing this sign. If you lived here, you'd be home now. This right here represented a moment of profound enlightenment for me. If I lived here, I would be home now. That is every minute Zen. That is, each step is the 1,000-mile journey. I am aware that my foot is leaving the ground and traveling, and I'm aware that it's arriving. And I've been here the whole time. I'm comforted with that, and I'm centered into that nothing else is necessary. The trees are green and the sky is blue, and there's a smell on the air, and it's a certain time of day. And I put my hand on the door handle and I turn it, and the door opens and I step through. It's that. And it's enough. It's shining in glory. It's filled with life. It penetrates to the core of the whole universe. It's the butterfly wing. If it goes up, there's one universe. If it goes down, there's another one. The flap of the butterfly wing starts a cascade of events that stretch to the farthest extent of the whole universe. And that could be my next thought. If I choose this thought instead of that thought, it creates a ripple in space-time that extends through all of time and space and changes everything that's going to happen from this moment forward. Choose carefully. It reminds me of what Louise Hay had been saying about police your mind. Don't entertain the negative voice that's speaking to you and sabotaging your life. Fill yourself with things that make life what you want it to be. And above all, find your love for yourself. Penetrate into you and accept who you are with all the things that you criticize with small mind. Those things are so unimaginably unimportant from a universal standpoint of the fact that life itself is so unimaginable and mind-blowing and amazing with this body and me and my eyes and my breath. The idea of being alive in a body, in an experience, in this case on Earth, surrounded by people, other living beings, people that you know, people that you love. It's so astounding that my little mind comes and looks at me and criticizes this and that, has a negative feeling about me. It creates ripples in space-time. Those things bounce back. They feed the universe a dialogue that becomes so. So I remember once she and I were having sort of a deep discussion about her life and the experiences she's gone through that made her who she is, and the same with me, things that happened to me. My son, Shay, and the fact that I've got, when I really look at it, I'm living a life where I'm doing what I do best, and I'm making a living at that. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, I've got a really nice house. I've got great things. I've got a nice car. I've got a beautiful office. I'm doing great work. People are being helped. I've got a son who's a wonderful guy, and I love him dearly, and he loves me back. It's like, what the hell am I complaining about? What have I had to complain about? It's ridiculous to allow the entertainment of those kind of thoughts that I might be complaining about something. It's so small in comparison to what I have and who I am, and the joy of what I'm up to for me. That she turned to me and she said, "You really love your life, don't you?" And that was a real sort of stopped me, because I had never considered it that way. I thought, well, I never thought about that. I never thought about, I really love my life. And I had to admit that I really, when I look at it, I love what I'm doing and what my life is, what it's become. That changed something in me, because every day I began to count my blessings. I began to allow a space in my life for that to enter in, for every day to, when I walk by my grand piano over there, it's like, I've got this grand piano. It's in my dining room. I've got these beautiful keyboards. I can make music. I don't know how to express this any better than that. It's just that every day something tweaks it, and I go, oh, wow, this is great. I really am blessed. And so when I began to work that into the dialogue mind, because it was never there before. It's the negative mind was always there, but the counterforce of that didn't seem to have a place. I didn't make a place for it. And when I began to make a place for that, for the positive voice, the voice that counts my blessings, the voice that looks at my space, that looks at the people I know and love and the things that I'm doing that I'm satisfied with, that brings me joy, to allow that in and to allow that to have a voice, then my life began to improve, and improved dramatically. I mean, my business improved, my friendships improved, my relationships improved, only because I had allowed this positive voice to have part of my space. And the more I exercised that voice and allowed it to become more and more and more dominant in my field, the little negative voice began to recede, because I was crowding it out, putting it in its place. What the hell do you have to complain about? It becomes a positive feedback loop, and it becomes inscrutable. It was one of those things that I saw continually with Louise that would blow my mind. I mean, we would decide to go out to dinner on a Friday night. Her place was downtown San Diego. She had this beautiful place looking out over Balboa Park. And we'd get in this funny little Fiat that she had, this little baby, this kind of robin's egg blue Fiat. I mean, this is somebody who, had a Rolls Royce at one point and decided she didn't want that. She wanted this funny little car, this cute little thing. So we're going to go out to our favorite restaurant, downtown San Diego, on a Friday night. There's no possibility of getting a parking place on a Friday night in San Diego. It ain't going to happen. But when we get there, there's a damn parking place empty right in front of the restaurant. And that is always something like that. Every time we go out on a weekend or any time, there's always a parking place there. And it was like, Louise, how do you do that? It's impossible. One time we went there was 2 parking places in front of our favorite restaurant, 2 side by side. It's like, what? How do you do that? And she said, I don't know. Life loves me. And with that statement, not just from here, but that statement from here, life loves me, it became so. It became so because Captain Picard said so. Make it so. And it just boggled my mind because I'm like the big brain guy, right? Got all these concepts and math formulas and esoteric secrets and on and on and on. And I can talk from now till doomsday. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I've been talking for an hour for a damn year, longer than a year. And it's still coming. That's what's in my brain. And Louise was the heart version of that. And the simplicity of the concept put my poor brain to shame. It was like, well, I mean, I'm asking you, what's the mechanism? What's the math behind this? What's the quantum underpinnings of how you get this parking space? That's where I'm coming from. And she's going, I don't know. The universe loves me. It's like, can't just be that. Got to be some big explanation with a lot of math, you know. And I had to admit, it's like, it's no more complex than that. It's opening my heart to the things that are good, and realizing that if I do that, I can structure the universe to be a good one. I had an experience with 9/11. My son's birthday is September 10, the day before. And when he was a little boy, that's when that happened. And I used to get him up out of bed to go to school. He would never get out of bed. Getting him out of bed was impossible. So I would turn on the television to cartoons, his favorite cartoon, and turn up the volume, and that would get him out of bed. And he would jump on the couch and watch cartoons, and I would shove breakfast in front of him and get him dressed. And then that's how I got him off to school in the morning. And this morning, he's on the couch. I'm coming in half-dressed, and I'm looking at the TV, and there's no cartoons there. There's the Twin Towers with planes flying into them and explosions. And when the second plane hit, it was like, oh my God, this is war. And then something inside of me came out and said, I reject this. I don't want to be in a world of war. I don't want my son to be there. I don't want any part of this. I reject this. And on the heels of that, I realized all the esoteric stuff that I know, that the universe itself is an external projection of my own collective unconscious mind. That this is me I'm seeing projected outwards. And I'm going, what part of the deep inside of me is that pissed off? That's that screwed up? I have to find out what's wrong in me that has to be healed. And it's the same thing now. It's the underpinnings of our group collective unconscious mind, of our whole species on planet Earth, that has to reconcile our deep selves with life itself and change our dialogue and change our relationship to all of the other living beings and to the planet itself, because we're driving it right over the edge of the cliff. It's not going to be able to support any life form. We're destroying its ability to support life, and We're right now already in another one of the major 6 extinctions that happen in Earth history, except it's us that's doing it. We're destroying life on the planet. There's extinctions that happen every single day now. And one of them is going to be us if we don't do something. And that's the purpose behind this series. We can't legislate ourselves out of this any longer. It's not possible. The world is too taken. It's corrupted. It's bought and paid for. Those forces are so solidly entrenched in the world that no legislation ability is going to be able to get rid of it. We have to go on another plane. We have to go into the quantum field and shift it there and have a spontaneous remission of the cancer that we are. And human beings have been doing this for thousands of years in various cultures. That's what I talked about, Lindisfarne 1 and Lindisfarne 2, where groups of people coming together, meditating together, and aligning their consciousness have the possibility of opening a doorway to higher dimensions of information and influence to change the course of history. And that's what we have the possibility of doing now with brain entrainment and science and headphones, where we can link everybody's brainwaves and states of consciousness to an exact same state with a level of precision that's never been possible in all of our history. And we can do it through the internet. We don't even have to be physically present with each other to do it. That means we can have thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people participating, which that would make it very difficult to do in person. But we can do it through this network that is uniquely 21st century. A unique ability, a unique solution to a problem. We can participate in that, and we can make that happen. We can penetrate into the quantum field, which extends boundless inward in the atom and outward in the whole, where we come to the primal archetypes of all things and how it all manifests. We can manipulate that. But it all begins here and it ends here. The 1,000-mile journey is my foot doesn't need to lift to even take the first step. The first step is the conception of the journey, that the foot never needs to move. It moves within itself and takes the step without moving. It's the sound of one hand clapping. It's the 1,000-mile journey is here and now, outside of time and space. That I don't need to take the step in order to arrive, because all destinations are here and now. I step from here and now, and I arrive at here and now. That's the 1,000-mile journey. So no movement even needs to take place. That as long as I can center myself here and now, then I'm never late and I'm never anxious. If you lived here, you'd be home now. that kind of thing. It's sort of too big. The idea of centering into the universal mysteries, where nothing is ordinary, everything is extraordinary. All of it is a participation in something grand. It's finding my place in the universe, in the here and now, and having that be everything I need to satisfy my soul, to be at peace, to be at ease. So the possibility of dis-ease has no corner, no place to enter. It's been squeezed out by an infinite value of being here and now. It's me in my spot, in the immensity of it all. where I'm the most important thing in the universe and the most insignificant thing at the same time. Finding the path of that journey, which is a place of stillness. It's the chop wood, carry water idea. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's before the 1,000-mile journey, my foot is on the ground, and after the 1,000-mile journey, my foot is also on the ground, in the same place. And the journey has been completed. And my mind is free in a way that it's hard to imagine. Free to commune with everything, free to be here now with what's truly important, me, taking my next breath, being alive, doing the dishes, opening the door, kissing the person I love. Opening my eye to what it's truly all about. Looking myself squarely in the eye and seeing what's really there, without interpretation, without definition, without thoughts, without anything negative or positive. It's just here, and it's now, and it's amazing, and it's enlightening, and it's filled with joy. And so, with that said, we have, once again, an experienced portion of all of this, just words. We have an ability to come together and to use the pool of energy from our collective unconscious minds that open doorways to higher levels of energy that no one of us has access to by ourselves. But together we can form a pool, and from that pool we can gather the strength to open the door, to be closer, to be here now, to find that place, and use each other to help one another to get here now. And so that's what we're doing with the soundtrack, to get to the place of true wellness, which is the absence of all strife and tension and disease, as if you didn't even know what that was. That's the real path of wellness. So close your eyes, and here we go. Here's where you could find that soundtrack. So, see if you can work some of this into your life every day. Do something. Do something to be here, to remember. Make a sticky note. Stick it someplace. Put it on your car dash. Put it on your refrigerator. Put it on the mirror in your bathroom. And when you see it, remember. Take the 1,000-mile journey while you're standing there. Stick it on your forehead. I don't know. Do something, anything. Meantime, it's my pleasure and joy and to be with you and to have all of you be with me and all of us together every week. It's a great joy. It's something I love doing, and I love being here. So please take care of yourselves for this week, and do something. And I'll see you in 1 week, and next week will also be Monday, because I'm teaching the next week of my workshop on Saturday and Sunday, so it'll be Monday again next week. So until then, I'll see you then.